Paul Singer unnerves Korea's billionaires, whether he wins or loses. The hedge fund titan's activist campaigns, first at Samsung Group in 2015 and then at Hyundai Motor Group, have trained a spotlight on the corporate governance failures and complex ownership structures that saddle South Korean stocks with some of the world's lowest valuations. His calls for change, which explains why the suffered by Singer's Elliott Management Corp. Friday in its Elliott and activist funds are changing the behavior of controlling shareholders and making them walk on eggshells, said Cha Yi-bai, a South Korean lawmaker who has worked at a non-profit shareholder activist organization. Activist investors have publicly targeted at least 5 tightly controlled conglomerates since Singer took aim at Samsung 4 years ago, jolting a corporate sector that was producing returns on equity about a third lower than emerging market peers. 3 of the campaign, including non-chaebol companies, activists targeted 12 South Korean businesses last year, up from none in 2013, according to figures from Activist Insight, a London-based research firm. The number of in South Korea, even companies that haven't faced pressure from activists are now adopting investor-friendly measures to avoid becoming targets, according to Yoon Tae-ho, an analyst at Korea Investment and Securities. Businesses in the Samsung Electronics. While Singer isn't wholly responsible for the changes and has had mixed results with his own activist campaigns, it's hard to overstate the 74-year-old billionaire's influence. His 2015 opposition to Samsung Group's succession-related restructuring touched off a series of events that resulted in a brief jail term for the electronics giant's billionaire heir apparent for influence peddling, protests by hundreds of thousands of people in Seoul, and the downfall and imprisonment of the country's president, Park Geun-hye. Park's successor, Moon Jae-in, made chaebol reform a central plank of his election campaign. Under his watch, the changes are pushing Korea Incorporated in the right direction, said Hyo Pil-seok, chief executive officer at Midas International Asset Management in Seoul. Some companies are trying to sound out investors about plans before announcements, a rarity only a few years ago, he said. They are weighing potential. Chaebol critics say meaningful reform may prove elusive. Proposed rule change. In one sign of investor skepticism, the long-time valuation discount on South Korean shares has gotten bigger in recent months. The Kospi's price, the battle over Hyundai, suggests chaebol bosses aren't keen for any dramatic changes. While Singer following the vote, Elliott said it's encouraged by the support for change from independent shareholders, adding, "We are confident that the future holds further improvements at Hyundai." The group continues to make progressive changes to its business with a strong commitment to maximizing shareholder value, Hyundai said in a statement Thursday. Singer's latest setback at the automaking group is unlikely to stop him from pushing for changes. The activist "This is just a prelude," Park said. Updates with Hyundai shareholder voting results. With assistance from Scott Deveau. To contact the reporters on this story, Sohee Kim in Seoul at skim847@bloomberg.net. Heejin Kim in Seoul. To contact the editors responsible for this story, Sam Nagarajan at samnagarajan@bloomberg.net, Michael Patterson. For more articles like this, please visit us at Copyright 2019 Bloomberg LP.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.